You are 19, standing on a Queens corner at 5 in the morning, holding a shovel the city gave you. The shovel pays $19.14 an hour. 9 years from now, you can clear more than $150,000 a year. You will never be promoted to get there. The rank above the truck starts at $89,854. A worker at top rate makes $95,316. The promotion is a pay cut, and the city prints that number in public. This is every level of a sanitation worker's career and what it costs to climb. If you want to see how these city jobs really pay, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. We start at level 1, the emergency snow laborer. The emergency snow laborer earns $19.14 an hour and $28.71 an hour after 40 hours in a week. Most are 18 to 30. There is no salary here because there is no year here. You work by the day, and only when the sky decides. You show up at a garage with 2 photographs, 2 forms of identification, and a social security card, and then you clear bus stops, crosswalks, and fire hydrants by hand. Your first storm, you dig out a hydrant in Sunset Park and feel good about it. An hour later, a plow walls it back in behind 4 feet of packed snow. Nobody did anything wrong. You dig it out again. Getting in requires being 18, being eligible to work in the United States, and being able to do heavy physical labor. There is no exam and no interview. Most who try do not come back for a second storm. It is not the cold. The pay can take 2 to 6 weeks to arrive, and after the blizzard of 2026, some shovelers were still waiting a month later. Here is what nobody tells you. In February of that year, the city raised the rate to $30 an hour in the middle of the storm because it needed bodies that night. The price of your back is a real number, and it moves with the weather. The ones who want a year instead of a night have to wait for a test the city almost never gives. The probationary sanitation worker earns $22.96 an hour, roughly $47,752 a year. Most are 22 to 32. You have a badge number now and a pension clock that has started ticking. You work a route with a partner. One drives, one runs the back, and you swap. You do it in July with the smell coming off the hopper, and in February with a plow bolted to the front of the same truck. Your third week you step off while the truck is still rolling, the way everybody else does it, and you land wrong on a curb cut and go down in front of the whole block. Your partner does not laugh. He tells you the truck stops for you. Getting in requires the open competitive exam, a physical test the men call the Superman test, a commercial driver license, and a medical review. The exam is the whole gate. A meaningful share do not finish probation. Some fail the physical. Most leave because the letter came years after the test, and by then they had built a different life. Here is what nobody tells you. That exam is supposed to come every 4 years. It came in 2007, then not again until 2015, then not until 2022. When filing opened in October of 2014, more than 94,000 people signed up in 1 month for about 500 jobs a year. The list is not a waiting room. The list is the career. Your number on it decides what year you are called. The year you are called decides your seniority. Your seniority decides your route, your shift, your days off, your vacation picks, and your snow assignment for the next 2 decades. You did not choose any of that. A multiple-choice test you sat in a school gymnasium on a Saturday morning chose it for you, before you had ever touched a truck. The top-rate sanitation worker earns $45.83 an hour, roughly $95,316 a year. Most are 28 to 50. 5.5 years in, you are at the ceiling of the base scale, and you stay there for the rest of your career unless you take a test. You know your route by its houses. You know which building puts out wet cardboard, which corner floods, which block has the school that changes the traffic at 2:45. One August, you reach into a bag that has sat in the sun since Friday and feel it given away bags should not give. You get the glove off in the street. You learn what belongs in that truck with your hand. Getting here requires nothing except time. 5.5 years of service and you arrive automatically. A steady stream leave field collection inside 10 years, almost all of them for a garage, for enforcement, or for a mechanical title. The reason is almost never the smell. It is the shoulders and the knees. Here is what nobody tells you. This is where the decision I mentioned at the start is waiting. Most people assume the road up is the road to more money, and the city's own exam notice says otherwise, in one line, in public. Half of what you have done so far is not what the job is called. New York City Sanitation collects the household waste of more than 8 million people. It also owns the snow. When a storm comes, the collection schedule stops. Plows go on the front of the trucks. The same crews go on 12-hour shifts until roughly 19,000 lane miles of street are clear. In February of 2026, the department put 2,600 workers on 12-hour shifts, moved more than 2,300 plows, and sent over 800 shovelers out on one morning shift. In a single night, they cleared more than 1,600 crosswalks and nearly 900 bus stops. That is the real job description. You are not a garbage crew that sometimes plows. You are an emergency road force that spends most of the year on collection. The district foreman earns $43.20 an hour, roughly $89,854 a year. Most are 32 to 55. Read those two numbers next to each other. A worker at top rate is on 95,316. The rank above him starts lower. The city calls this title something else on paper. Inside a garage, he runs a district. Getting here requires 2 years of permanent service in the eligible title, a promotional exam with an application fee near $100, and then another list and another wait. Your first winter with the whiteboard, you hold a truck back 40 minutes because the driver's hours are wrong on paper. The route runs late and the calls come in. Being correct is now something you defend in a room. A fair number of eligible workers never file for that exam. When you ask them why, the answer is not fear of the test. It is arithmetic they did at a kitchen table. Here is what nobody tells you. The men who take it anyway are not doing it for the next 5 years. They are doing it for the last 5, because the body has a limit the pay scale does not care about, and the rank is where a long career here actually goes. The general superintendent earns $59.91 an hour, roughly $124,623 a year. Most are 40 and up. You run a section. Several districts, the garages inside them, the manning, the equipment, and the snow plan for that piece of the map. Getting here requires holding the rank below permanently, a high school diploma, a valid New York State driver license, and a driving record clean enough to survive review. Your first big storm at this level, you decide at 2 in the morning which streets get the second pass. You are choosing between a hill with a hospital on it and a flat stretch with 4 schools. No correct answer is written down anywhere. A meaningful share go no further. The ranks above are fewer at every step, and the weight is measured in other people's retirements. Here is what nobody tells you. Everyone at this level can name a storm by date, the way other men name a wedding. That is the exam that decides who moves up here, and nobody schedules it. Before the last level, one more thing explains why the pension here is written the way it is. On Saturday, the 21st of September, 2024, at around 5:43 in the evening, a sanitation worker named Richard Errico was making a U-turn outside the Queens East Garage on Douglaston Parkway. He was 54, a 19-year veteran, and he was working alone. Midway through the turn, he fell from the cab and went under the wheels of the truck he was driving, a 65,000-pound machine. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Sanitation Commissioner Jessica Tisch said the department mourned a 19-year veteran who had served Douglaston, Little Neck, and Bayside as one of the strongest. Flags on city buildings were lowered to half staff. Sanitation workers drive with the cab doors open because they get in and out of the truck hundreds of times a shift. What ends people in this job is almost never the part that looks dangerous from the sidewalk. It is a movement so ordinary that the man doing it had done it 10,000 times. That is why the uniformed force retires on a 22-year plan, not 30, not 35. The number 22 is written into the pension because of what 2 decades of this does to a body. The overtime chaser earns more than $150,000 a year, and in a heavy winter, more than that. Most are 35 to 55. This is not a rank. It is a worker at top base pay who says yes to everything. Sunday work pays double. Chart days pay double. Snow work outside your tour carries a premium with a guaranteed minimum attached. Every hole in a garage schedule, for years, without a gap. The winter you finally chase it, you work 22 days straight. You come home on the 23rd day, and your daughter has learned to ride a bike. Your wife filmed it, and you watch it on a phone. Getting here requires seniority high enough to be offered the work, a body that has not broken yet, and a household that has agreed to a particular kind of life. A steady stream cannot hold it past 5 years, and the reason they give is almost never physical. Here is what nobody tells you. This is the answer to the question I asked at the start. Around year 6, every worker here decides whether the next 2 decades are about the base or about the hours. Nobody asks you, and there is no ceremony. The base road ends at 95,000, and a rank that pays less. The hours road ends higher and sooner. The ladder stops there, and the money does not. 2 seats outside the 6 pay more than most of them. The first is the sanitation enforcement agent, a separate uniform title on a separate exam, who writes summonses from a car instead of a truck. The second is the garage. The mechanics and machinists who keep that fleet running sit on their own titles, and the city posted the top of that chain at a minimum of $127,943 a year. That is more than the general superintendent who runs the section those trucks work in. Snow laborer, $19.14 an hour, and you can start tomorrow. Probationary worker, $47,000, and you waited years for the letter. Top rate worker, $95,000, after 5.5 years. District foreman, $89,000, and you took a cut for it. General superintendent, $124,000, and you can name a storm. Overtime chaser, over $150,000, and never home on a Sunday. 19 years in this department does not buy you a promotion. It buys you a number on a list that decides your Sundays and the standing to choose which 20 years you spend. Next, every level of a surgical nurse.